All right, welcome back to another episode of Buster's Beat, the podcast where I sit down with other queer artists and entertainers and talk about life, the universe, and everything. Today, my very special guest is a masterfully multi-talented human being and incredibly kind person, Lynsey Moon, a.k.a. Mia Culpa.
Yes.
Hi, Lynsey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm great. Any day that I get to wake up and make a podcast episode,
It's a good day.
Is a great day. So it's really fulfilling things for me. But,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so
I think
happy
the
to
best
be
part about
here.
having a podcast is I get to go to people I know and say, do you want to be on my podcast? And then they say
it's like,
yes.
oh my
and then
God,
here we
me?
are. Yeah. I used to make fun of people all the time being like, a couple of guys in a hot tub talking about starting a podcast. And now I am that guy. I just need the hot tub.
Exactly the same.
But yeah, so Lynsey, a.k.a. Mia Culpa.
Yes.
Give us a little intro of yourself, who you are, what you do, what kind of labels you're into or not into. Tell the people.
So I always introduce myself as a musician, although lately it's been like burlesque / drag performer. I was at a show recently where I was on a mic, someone was doing some crowd work, and they're like, oh, are you a drag performer? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, musician, burlesque, drag, I guess, a little bit. Dipping my toes in there.
Your foot's
They're in. My foot is in the drag pool. A general nuisance goofball.
Great. Pronouns?
She, her. I think I kind of was toying around with like he, him for drag. I think it's a good separation for me to have like he, him, drag pronouns. So yeah,
you can
I'm all over the place.
Great. Incredible. So when I first met you, I only knew you as Lynsey the musician.
Yes.
And I think I might have been there for your burlesque birth.
Yeah. Maybe. Actually, I had like a soft launch. My first ever performance was Ain't Mitzvah Haven. I never know how to say that out loud. But that was like my first ever burlesque thing. And then I kind of got way addicted to it and then went and took it to the band. And I was like, I would like to do this more, please.
Awesome. Well, let's start... We'll start with music because that's where you started.
Yeah.
So that sounds like the most natural progression. So I know you have solo stuff.
I do.
I've listened to it on Spotify.
Really?
It's really good. Well, anytime my friends have stuff on Spotify, A, I genuinely do try to listen to it, but B, if I'm not using Spotify at night, I will play their album silently on loop so that you get more listens.
Super fan.
Well,
we love it.
Because I'm like, I'm paying Spotify, you know, for the money. So if it's not going into the artist's pocket, unless they're getting thousands and thousands of listens, listen up out there. You can play your friend's music on Spotify while you sleep, and they'll get more and more hits. So do that.
That's such a great idea. I love it.
Have you never?
I've done that for like YouTube because I know sometimes like people are starting a YouTube channel, but I didn't even think about applying it to Spotify.
Totally do it on Spotify.
I love that. Yes,
absolutely. So your musical origins, does this go back to childhood? Were you band geek? Were you musically inclined? Choir?
Was.
Tell me everything.
My claim to fame is that I got kicked out of jazz band because I was not jazzy enough.
Jazzy enough for jazz bands.
So I was classically trained on the piano, which is like my first instrument. So I don't know how to jazz. I can't do the jazz. So they were like, this isn't really working out. We need someone who knows how to play more 7 chords. But yeah, I was classically trained as a kid. I did piano lessons for like a million years. And then regrettably, like a lot of piano or music people and their parents give them the option to stop taking lessons. I was like, yeah, no, I hate this. I'm out.
Hell no, I don't want to do this
But
anymore.
now I'm like, man, I wish I had taken more piano lessons.
Well, do you need a piano? I have one.
I would love just a whole piano.
I have a whole piano and I don't play piano.
Oh my God.
So we'll talk later.
I do miss having a piano. I have a keyboard.
I have one. It's being fostered somewhere else by someone else who doesn't play it. So we can...
Tragic. I know. That's the thing is once you need to get rid of a piano, no one can ever take a piano off your hands.
It was my grandmother's piano. Because she
what I
played.
Had. Huh? Yeah, that's what I had too growing up.
Grandmothers and their pianos.
Grandma piano.
Well, so, when she passed away, my mom inherited the family house. Everyone came and cleaned out all the stuff that they wanted. Mm-hmm. And when they were selling the house, nobody took the piano. I was like, why is this still here? And she was like, well, who wants to move a piano?
Yeah,
None of
right.
us play piano. Like, we're just going to leave it here for whoever buys the house.
Right.
And I was like, whoever buys this is going to just throw this away.
Yeah, no one wants to get rid of it. It's so sad. My mom
moved a piano.
You moved a piano?
I moved a piano.
Wow.
I had a friend with a truck where I was like, hey, dude.
Who wants to move a piano?
So me, a friend of mine, my brother, and my mom moved a piano.
Wow.
Granted, it's an upright, not like a grand piano,
But
thank
still,
God.
that's
but like
an undertaking.
yeah, that's
for
a
sure.
whole vocation for people is piano moving. So it's a miracle we didn't destroy it.
I know.
It might need a little bit of tuning.
Probably.
But it's mostly fine. It gets played by cats a lot.
Amazing.
Wait, what? So what age did you start piano? Like real young?
Like probably like 7 or 8, I think.
Wow.
I was doing that thing when I was like a little kid where I was like dink, plunk, dink on the piano. And my parents were like, that sounds like maybe like not bad.
Little heart and soul.
Yeah. I was like, so I like got ushered into piano lessons.
Nice.
And I did some composition for a while.
Like you wrote
I wrote
music?
original songs on the piano when I was like a little tyke.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you still have like the sheet music somewhere?
I do. I have like a cassette tape recording of like my original compositions. I had a teacher who would have me write a song every few weeks who, unrelated to the fact that I'm obsessed with bunnies, would have this continuing saga of a bunny and would have me write different things. One time Bunny was having a birthday party in the woods with all his little woodland friends, and then she was like, write a song about it. And I was like, okay.
Anything to inspire.
Yeah, so like something would happen to the bunny every week. I'd write little songs about him. So I was just a little tyke. So
Nice.
but then once I stopped taking lessons, I kind of abandoned music for a while. And then in college, all my friends were musicians, and they were like, you should do that. You should do more of that. So I got into piano again. But then during lockdown, I impulse bought a really cheap and old accordion. So I was like, how hard could it be? It's a piano. You just play it upright. It's a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who doesn't play any instruments, I would assume there's not a ton of crossover.
No,
but
I mean, I was like, I could figure this out, no problem, because that meme that's like, I don't know how to do a lot of things, but I am gay.
Yeah, the gay audacity to think you can do anything.
I'm like, I will figure it out.
It's
and
true.
I did, sort of.
There's a lot to be said for the queer audacity to think you can literally do anything. That's how a lot of things get done.
Right, exactly.
I have like bisexual audacity, so I think I can do some things.
Well, yeah, I guess that's same for me. I'm like, I'll figure it out.
I know I can't play an instrument, so I'm
You never
just
know,
not.
though.
I've taken lessons.
Oh, really?
Whatever
Doesn't
that
stick?
part in the brain is, mine is broken.
It's a different
and
part
I
of the
feel
brain.
like it's related to like learning languages. Like I think that might be the same part of the brain of learning music, and mine just doesn't.
See, I'm real bad at
work.
languages too. I get a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't know, this isn't sticking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember when I was a kid, people started taking like Spanish or French like in grade school. But then I felt like every year was, next year you can start taking Spanish. And then I'd get to that year and they'd be like, we don't have the funding for that. So it's next year and next year. So finally it was high school before they were like, okay, now you have to take Spanish. And I was already like, well, my brain's already kind of.
Like, I'm not there, so.
And then I had the worst Spanish teacher for 2 years. Shouldn't teach us the alphabet.
What? That doesn't help,
teach
man.
us numbers.
You're like, you got this. Just dive right in.
Yeah. So I think that part of my brain is broken, but yours is not. So when you stopped playing piano, so you started at 7.
Around
7.
Roughly, yeah.
When your parents gave you the option to stop, when was that around? Like high school, pre-high school?
That was, oh my God, that was probably middle school, because I remember it was a huge deal. I was getting bat mitzvahed.
Oh.
And they were like, you can stop if you want.
They're like, you're an adult now.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
They were like, you can go learn your Torah for a couple of years, and then, you can stop taking lessons. And I was like, great, I'll never do it again.
So then no music in between that and college?
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
And that's when I picked up uke too, because I bought a ukulele at a Beatles convention in Chicago because of
Gay,
course I did.
Gay audacity.
Again, I was like, it's $20. I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And I did.
I tried. I couldn't. I had a best friend with a ukulele, and she was like, "Dude, you just gotta."
Yeah, no,
couldn't do it.
My girlfriend like had a moment where she was like, "I can learn it. You can teach me." I'm like, "Well, here, 2 chords, 1 finger," and I can't.
Just doesn't work.
I don't know.
For some people,
people's brains are different, man.
Yeah. Did you do any like artistic, creative stuff in between that time? Like, were you a theater kid at all, or do you do it like visual? Do you do like illustrations and stuff? Is that something that's true of you?
I do draw, but I'd never like done anything with that other than like I made a comic book about.
I've never done anything with that. I made a comic book.
I was very young, and it was like at summer camp, and it was about these superheroes named Wasabi and Ginger.
That's incredible.
Wasabi was like a superhero, and Ginger was like his little sidekick. I think I might. I think my mom might have that in one of her like basement boxes.
In a tote with like some report cards.
Yeah, exactly. It's somewhere in existence.
I had a comic strip for a while.
Oh,
it was very not good.
Let me tell you about it. It was bad.
It was bad. It was funny, but like I'm not a good visual artist, so I thought it was really funny. But it was about like my misadventures in college, and it was on Tumblr. For a very long time.
Of course.
Because I would draw it by hand, and then I would like take a picture and upload it to Tumblr. And then somebody broke into my car once, and they stole my backpack.
Oh my God.
Which had like a bunch of valuables, obviously, but also the only hard copies of my comics.
It's going to be a collector's item one day.
Well, you know, they got a huge bag of weed. They got a lot of school books. And I'm like, you couldn't have left like the art supply, like the stack of like paper and pencils that I needed for my really shitty comic.
This person's going to be like, I robbed Buster Pants, and here's what happened.
Well, I wasn't Buster then, so.
Okay,
but it would have been the notorious LJK.
Oh, even
strip.
more mysterious.
Well, and then Tumblr did that big like wipeout in like the 2010s at some time, and so now it just doesn't exist.
It's just a wasteland out there.
It's been wiped off the face of the planet. And I'm like, I have the memories of them being funny.
So sad.
So a little bit of doodling.
Yeah, I do.
Theater kid?
I doodle.
No theater?
I always tried to be a theater kid, but I think I lacked the confidence because I would audition for things. I was like a perpetual ensemble member. The only big role I got one time was I was the principal in Grease, which I loved because I was like, I don't even have to do any dancing. I just get to tell other kids to stop dancing. That's my role. I love it.
Did you get to do? I've never seen Grease as like a stage production. I've only ever seen the movie. Like, did you get to do the like xylophone?
I did not. No, they don't do that. But tragically, I did get to tap people out during the hand jive, which I made I was very excited to be. Just a killjoy.
That's a good role. Get out of here.
Yep.
So we'll skip forward then into college.
Yeah.
When you start dabbling on the piano again?
Yeah, that was sort of like this is my re-origin story. It was like, okay, all my friends are musicians. And then we had this like open mic coffee house. They called it a coffee house. It was like a Subway in a basement.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school in Westfield. So I went to Westfield State.
Okay.
There's like nothing out there.
Well, anything past, you know.
Yeah, the further west you get, like the more empty it
Worcester,
is.
But even anything past, like
it's less and
Newton.
less stuff out there. Yeah. But like, but they had a coffee house on campus, which was like a Subway in a basement that had like chairs and tables, and you could go there. I don't even remember what day of the week it was. Like once every week, they would have like an open mic. So my friends and I would play like Pink Floyd covers and stuff because, of course, we did.
Of course you did.
And I got started back into it then. That was when I also bought my ukulele at a Beatles convention from a Paul McCartney impersonator, which sounds made up, but it's not.
No, that's too many details to be made up, you know?
That's a bit on brand. And then I learned how to play like She Loves You and whatever other song came with the uke at the Beatles convention. And
Beatles.
I know.
They're fine, I guess.
They're okay.
I understand their importance to pop culture. I just don't listen to them.
No, that's fair.
That's fine.
That's a very popular opinion.
If somebody else puts it on, I'm not upset.
Yeah. No, I like grew up with it. So I was like I grew up with like dad rock. That's like my whole steez.
Well, dad rock can be a very broad thing because I also grew up with dad rock, but I was listening to a lot of like Def Leppard and Poison.
Different generation of dad,
well,
but yeah.
I mean,
And then that's shaped us into who we are today.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, so I played ukulele for a while. I kind of switched. I always could never get the hang of guitar because I'm like, with piano, the notes are all like right there in front of you. You don't have to like make them. They're right there. You don't have to
Guitar,
make
you gotta like...
Yeah, you gotta like make a chord. That's so much work.
Yeah. Gotta make your hand funny shapes.
I know. I can play a tiny bit of guitar, but
0% for me. 0.
But learning uke actually let me figure out guitar a little easier because it's frets, but they're smaller and there's less of them. And
just
like
a little mini.
Yeah, so it's kind of easier to learn like a stringed instrument for once. And so I felt cool about being one of the many ukulele girls for a while.
Listen, there was a time and a place.
I know. I kept the train rolling. Still got it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I still, to this day, don't. I tried taking keyboard in high school. And, I mean, I took it. I didn't try taking it. I took it and I passed, but, like, didn't retain
Didn't stick
anything.
at all.
I can't read music. They would be like, this is how you read music. And I was like...
Reading music's tough, man. When I think about how I, like, wrote it, like, by hand as, like, a child,
why I was like...
I'm like, how did I do that?
I used to write poetry as a child, which makes sense for writing raps as an adult.
Yeah,
I was pretty good,
carries.
too. I have a squishy, like, Minnie Mouse notebook I still have.
I love that. That's very cute.
It was deep.
Deep poetry.
Some of it really was. Like, the spelling is bad, but, like, the prose is good.
The heart is there.
Yeah. So we'll take another leap forward into early lockdown.
Yeah.
And is that where, like, you really had the time to focus on being like, I am a musician now?
Yeah. Like, I did a little bit of, so I'm still in the group. It's less active now. COVID, like most things, had a dent. But I was in this Facebook group that was like, it's called Theme Music. It's like a remote group for, like, musicians to, like, make music remotely. So we were doing the, like, on video remote mixing stuff like before COVID, and I met a lot of
before everyone else was doing it.
Cool to do that. But like all these friends that I made through that group are like all over the place. That we meet once a year in Atlanta and do like a live show because most of the group is in Atlanta. It's really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So I met a lot of people through there, and that's like once I was out of college, that's like how I kept doing music and stuff. So I was on YouTube. I used to make a lot of videos on YouTube of like my music and like covers and stuff like that I would make with these people. Is it still on there? Yeah.
Yes.
That I would like make with these like go check that out later.
Yeah.
I would make with these people from these groups. Like we'd record drums, like pass it off. We use Dropbox, like pass off like, okay, the drums are recorded, now we get the bass on there, and like so it was like kind of a fun process. And I met a lot of cool people through that group, and I kept doing music through that group, and like I would write a song and be like, who can play drums? And so it was kind of fun to like do that for a while. And then again, like COVID kind of sucked the wind out of everybody's sails, and kind of no one was
dark times.
No one was feeling very creative. So I was like looking for a different outlet during like lockdown, and I'd always wanted accordion. My favorite band is They Might Be Giants. Huge nerd.
Yes.
And I was like,
this is why we get along so well.
Exactly. The nerd culture runs deep.
Yeah, nerdcore is strong.
Oh yeah, and like accordions, if you don't know, are extremely expensive, and
I would guess, but I don't know.
They're very expensive.
How much is a brand new accordion?
So
roughly,
if you want to get like
a nice one,
like a nice
like
one,
a nice, like
over
a brand
$1,000.
Okay,
at least $1,000.
How much was your? Can I ask?
Yeah.
Did you get it secondhand? You said?
Yeah. So the first one I ever got was $200, and I was like, that's insane because I've yet to find an accordion for $200 that works, and it was like somebody's grandfather's accordion that they had in their attic. They're like, I'm getting rid of it.
To go to a nice home.
I'm like, I swear it works, and I got it, and it did, and I was so excited. It's very old. It's got that like old musty,
that attic smell.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's so
like
good.
When you play it, does it like smell at you?
So it is very old, and I have since upgraded because I kind of had to because it's got like some little wear and tear, and it's very old.
It's seen some things.
It's had a life.
Yeah. A whole life before you. You don't even know the things it's seen.
This accordion's been through some shit I don't even know about.
Accordions could talk.
But so it's sort of semi-retired. I will play it once in a while still, but it's also much bigger than my current accordion. But yeah, it started to get a little wheezy. So,
listen, as an asthmatic,
I was like,
it ain't easy being wheezy.
I was like, I don't want to replace it, but sometimes you gotta. But for $200, it was a real steal, and to learn on it, it was like I was so excited. In lockdown, just like waiting every day, like where is it? Where is it? Can I track it yet? Where is it?
Where's my accordion?
But yeah, that was such a weird experience because I was like, I always wanted an accordion and I played piano. Like, it can't be that hard. But there's so many mechanisms.
It's got a little piano on the side.
There's got a little piano on the side. There's a button side. There's a whole map of those buttons that you just have to remember because like they're not labeled and you can't see them.
Watching you or literally anyone play the accordion, I'm just like, what's happening in your brain right now?
Oh my God, you gotta like
me.
LR split your brain in half and like. Well, like when Bella's Bartok, what is it, Alex? I think he is like a wizard, and I like could not wait to go talk to him and be like, tell me everything. And he was like, oh, I'm not that good. And I was like, stop it right now.
He's a very humble guy.
I know, and I'm like incredible. He posted a clip of like what was it, Nightmare Before Christmas, I think, playing some crazy Danny Elfman stuff on the accordion, and I was like,
he's like, I'm okay.
It's like that Billy Madison scene where they're playing like the instruments, and he's just like, he's better. Like, I try, but man. But yeah, no, I'm still learning it. I'm only just now starting to like mess around with the button side, which is like the chord side.
I'm only just touching the buttons.
I've been so focused on the keyboard side. I'm like, let's see what's going on over here.
What's over here.
But yeah, no, it's a crazy, crazy instrument, and I wish I knew more about it because sometimes people ask me questions about it, and I'm like, man, I
won't ask you any questions about it. Just the cost.
It's
the only thing I can relate to.
It's a magical thing. No, I understand. For real. I had to get my last one on like a payment plan for real.
I mean,
it's like
sometimes you gotta invest in yourself sometimes.
I know, you know?
Yeah.
The band's taken off. I gotta upgrade my setup.
That's true. So let's get into the origins of your friends or do you want to talk about your solo music?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of pre your friends in hell. So was that like early pandemic or before the pandemic?
Yeah.
Or
actually, I did get off on a little tangent there, but like,
that's okay. We love a tangent.
Yeah, the theme music stuff is like kind of what inspired me to like start writing more songs. And I did an album that I'm pretty proud of that I made with people from that group. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is called Tethers. And the whole idea was like to get other people whose music I really liked in that group, like involved with, like write songs with other people basically, and like get other people's input and get other people to play on it. And my whole thing on that album in particular was like, I'm not going to play any instruments. I want everyone else to play stuff. I want everyone else to write stuff with me. And then like, so I ended up with this like really cool, weird, different sounding album. There's like some heavy rock stuff on there. There's like some like gentle acoustic stuff on there. And I think it's cool to like...
Is that what, if you go on Spotify to look for you, is that under your...
Yeah, so that's under Lynsey Moon. And that's like, I think that's like my only like full album. I have another one on there called Wabi Sabi, but it's just like... I
was going to say, I think that's the one that I've
It's just like me and Uke mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tethers was like that was my only ever, Kickstarter thing. Oh. Because it was expensive to produce a bunch of albums. But then I also kind of was a bit... overambitious and like made CDs when like people don't buy CDs anymore. So I was like, who wants them? Please, someone take them.
I feel like at this point it's not more cost effective, but it's better off to just like do vinyl because people want like the novelty of it. CDs, people are like.
Everyone's like, do you have cassettes? And I'm like, what year is it?
What are you going to play a cassette in?
I mean, like, see, it's just funny. Like, within a couple of years, CDs are just, no one has, I don't even have CDs. I don't even know if I could play a CD, honestly.
I always, whenever I go to like a music festival or something, like a smaller show, bands are like, here, take this free CD. And I'm like, Please, no. And it's not because I don't want to listen to it. It's because I literally have nothing. I don't have anything to play a CD with. So it's just going to sit in my car for the rest of forever. So don't give this to me.
I know. It's really
Mail one
sad.
out to every radio station, I guess.
Yeah.
They must have.
That's got to be a thing that they still do.
You think
Y'all still got those CDs?
NPR?
But yeah.
They gotta.
Yeah, they've got to be able to.
Come on.
But I did that, and that was fun. That was a fun little project. That was pre-COVID, and I think that was like my last big solo thing. I've since written like a bunch of songs, but I haven't really had like the ambition / time / anything to record anything. Yeah. I was doing some solo shows for a while, like in between, actually before burlesque consumed my life, but
it has a way of doing that.
Yeah, it sure does. But I was doing some solo shows where I like, just me and my uke, and that was kind of fun. But yeah, I haven't really, it was like YouTube for a while. I did that album, and then like kind of the band took off, and sort of like, it's not like I'm not making it sound like, and now I have no time for my own music.
It is, I mean, in a good way, it's like that sometimes, like when you're so busy, like you have to pick which passions to follow in the moment. Like, it's like sometimes you got to go back to things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't like miss it or anything. Like I can still do it if I want to. It's just sort of like one of those things where I'm like, I don't know, I'm enjoying this a lot more right now, and like trying to focus on that, and like, I might go record stuff as a solo artist at some point, but I'm not like in a rush. So
nice.
Yeah. But then
So yeah, tell me about the origin story of Your Friends in Hell, because I actually know Shotgun, and that's how I met you.
Yes.
So what is actually, I know Shotgun through, do you know our backstory?
I do, which is very silly and
we
cute.
worked on an ancient Egyptian walkthrough adventure together. But even prior to that, I actually went to high school with Jess.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you knew that as well.
I did, and I totally forgot about it.
The history goes way back, because I remember like we did drama together.
That's so funny.
And then hadn't talked to them in a few years, but just because, they graduated before me, and then had this job at Tomb and met Joe and was like, wait, I know you from somewhere.
Funny. It's funny that...
and then we put that together.
Yeah, right.
And then like... years later with the band stuff, and I was like, what? The timeline sometimes of like the way I have friends is crazy. So
it's so wild.
What is the origin story there, if you...
So I met Shotgun online, and it was sort of when everybody was like, thank God COVID's over. Woo, that was terrible. And then it came back again, worse.
With a vengeance.
Yeah. But we actually met online, and our first meeting, we took a walk with masks on, which is such a surreal thing to think about.
What a time.
And he was like, I've got this band thing, and it was just him and a drummer at the time, and he was like, we have this like, I have melodica, but like I wish I knew someone with an accordion. And I was like, well. I was like, I have the unique opportunity to say, guess what? So that was sort of like, it was like an offhanded like, oh, well, maybe you come do a band practice sometime. And I did, and played a song about Bigfoot at me, and I was like, I am in, yes.
I'm in.
I'm already, sign me up.
Sign me up.
And then it was the three of us for a while, and then Jess's brother Derek joined the band, Crab,
who I also go way back with. I bleached his hair once when I was in high school in cosmetology.
That's so
for
funny.
like Anime Boston, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've heard about some cosplays from. We've all lived like a million lives, but yeah. So we snowballed into a full band and started like playing shows. Our first show ever was at the Jungle, and like it was, I don't think anyone, including us, was prepared for like the turnout of a band's first show.
It was just like a packed room on like a Monday night.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at that one, and I was just like, I thought this was gonna be super low key.
No, we all did. There was like one really out of it bartender who was like not prepared for us.
I also remember that bartender. I was like, do you need me to hop behind the bar? Like, you seem stressed.
Do you need some help? It was a wild experience. It was a wild debut as a band. And then we've been just kind of snowballing since then, and we've picked up our Rockwell shows. Obviously,
love the Rockwell.
Been a part of those.
Part of the canon.
Yeah, and the theatrics and stuff. That's my favorite part. Is like when we get the Rockwell to do like a big production.
Story.
Yeah. I love like when we did Real Ghost Live and like having the stories of theatrics and music and live music and like burlesque, and that's like, ooh, I love it.
The puppets and the haunters.
I love a variety show.
The backstage is a mess, but in the best way.
Oh yeah, totally.
Whose bats are these?
Everyone's just taking their clothes off, like, oh, my butt's out. Oh, it's okay, me too.
Just glitter and blood everywhere.
But it's always great.
And Mothman.
And Mothman's there somewhere, usually.
Yeah, those shows are so much fun, and I'm like happy that I had like such a weird little in path there where it was, you know, Joe was like, hey, we're gonna do this weird thing, do you want to be a part of it? And I was like, hell yeah,
of course I do.
Of course I do. Like, I like a band that does a bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you all have like stage names within the band, which I really love. Like, the lore runs deep. And then the songs themselves are, hey, like, songs that are silly and tell a story are awesome, but they're also actually good. Like, you're all actually really good musicians.
Well,
so you don't have to rely on the fact that it's like very story driven.
Right.
Like, it's the best of both worlds.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I do love. I mean, Shotgun's very theatrical. He's got the whole
wig from your.
Oh my God, I died.
It haunts me.
I died. That was okay. So for context, listeners, I produced a show called Live Nude Ghouls, but it had Your Friends in Hell as a duo. So it was me and Shotgun. Buster, you were in it. There was a bunch of other amazing, talented people in it. It was a really good show, and I want to do it again already. But the plan was for us to be Mulder and Scully, because it's like cryptids and supernatural and stuff. And honestly, I had a hard time because we were like, who's going to be Scully? And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of it that way. And Jess was like, I'm researching Scully wigs right now. And I was like, what if we both were Scully? And then we made a bit out of like, oh, I thought you were good. You said but I thought. And then I was like, let's just go classic. And then I didn't even know about the wig until like the day of. And he was like in the other room, like, I don't know about this.
It was such an incredible choice because I remember getting there and I was like, who is this guy just like intensely like pacing around near the stage? And I was like, is he waiting for the live nude ghouls and like is waiting for it to start? And then he turned around and was like, oh my God.
He did at one point, we did a whole bit obviously about like he's Mulder and weird conspiracy theories, and he was like, at one point I'm gonna barrel roll onto the stage, so just prepare for that. And I was like, I cannot prepare for that.
How does one prepare for that?
And he did it and I was not prepared.
Well.
But yeah, no, I love doing tying theatrics with music and stuff and giving people like a whole production. Like people love that stuff.
That's true. It's a lot of fun to do stuff like that. Because like I don't mind a themed show, but like if you're going to do a theme show, I want that storyline.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Because otherwise I'm like, well, why are we doing a theme?
You're like, okay, well, everybody's sort of on theme, but like what's the in-between look like? Yeah, no, I love that sort of thing. I'm glad we get to do that with the band. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And did that lead to you doing your own burlesque and drag? Like having burlesque and drag performers with Your Friends in Hell? Was that kind of what snowballed it for you?
Honestly, so I was pretty new to that scene entirely. And honestly, you were one of the first people I got to see regularly because you were with Your Friends in Hell.
Well, you know.
But I was like, that looks really fun.
Well.
And I was like, that would be fun to try that one day. And I kind of didn't really like make an effort to do anything with it. And then I think it was the Ain't Mitzvah Having like casting call for Passover show. And I was like, that would be really funny if my first burlesque was like a Passover show. And it was. But that was the first time I ever did it. And then kind of, you know how it goes. You do it once and you're like, oh, that was really fun. I was like, I'm either going to like hate this and never do it again. Yeah. Or like I will want to do it more and more forever. And it was the last one. But yeah, when I was first going to do it, I was trying to think of a name. And then I was like talking about it with my friends. I'm like, well, Mia Culpa's like right there. So could just do that. And I'm like, what if I also played accordion? Could also do that.
There it is.
So kind of like snowballed from like, and Mia Culpa's origin was with Your Friends in Hell.
Yeah.
And then I thought, like, I had this whole backstory for Mia Culpa because that's what I understood the assignment to be. I was like, let me just come up with like her story real quick.
Yeah.
And because the whole thing with Your Friends in Hell, and if I get this wrong, I'll probably hear about it. But I think...
Well, this episode won't come out for another few months, so you got time.
Great. I think the whole story with Your Friends in Hell was originally supposed to be like, we died and went to hell, and we're getting like a second chance to like do it better this time.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. You know, just standard.
Someone who's not in the band, I feel like I can confirm this backstory.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I think that's about right. And I think when I heard that, I was like, okay, so let me think about where Mia Culpa comes from. And I was like, what if Mia Culpa was like hyper religious and did everything she thought God wanted her to do, which is funny because I'm Jewish, but... What if she was like hyper religious, super into God, died and went to hell, and then was like, oh, so that didn't actually like mean anything then. Like I did all the right stuff and it didn't actually matter. So now I'm just going to be a total hedonist and like whatever. Because if it doesn't matter, then I might as well like, right? So like if it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. And I might as well just like have fun while I'm here, which has kind of been my life philosophy anyway. So, but I think that's deep down what Mia Culpa is supposed to be.
That makes sense.
And I think the idea that it's just like be as dumb and ridiculous as possible and get naked whenever you can, it's, you know, words to live by.
That's my philosophy. I'm like, I don't know how to get on a stage without tearing off my clothes.
Yeah, you know?
I'm like, oh, finally out of the burlesque and into the drag scene. And I'm like,
but still, here I am naked.
I just like being naked.
I mean, it's great. When you can get people to cheer for you when you're naked, that's one of the best feelings, man.
When you're just a low-key exhibitionist and then you do burlesque and you're like, fuck.
And you're like, oh no.
Awesome.
You're like, yes, I am hot. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. That's my burlesque origin story was I got like a Groupon for burlesque classes.
Amazing.
Because like I did lots of theater and stuff, performance stuff in high school and college. So I found a Groupon. Because I was on Groupon a lot at the time, you know, when I was 19 or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And so I took like a 3-part class. And I was like, that was fun. Well, I'll just throw that into the back of my mind somewhere that I know how to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
And I started kind of dabbling on my own, just like in my bedroom, being like, remember that time? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be very like classic and pin-up-y. And not that there's anything wrong with classic burlesque. It's a very beautiful art form, but it's not like
it's not like your thing.
It's not how I move my body.
Yeah.
And I've done some of that, which was fine. I did it well enough, but it didn't bring me joy the way whatever it is I'm doing now does.
Right.
But so I had all these little ideas tucked away in my brain of like, well, if someday, but when would that ever happen? That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
And then I happened to work with someone a few years later who had just left their burlesque troupe to start their own. Because she wanted to do something a little bit more, like less classical, more horror themed.
Into it.
And we happened to work together and she was like, hey, you do burlesque, right? Because I might have mentioned it in passing. And I was like, yeah, but... depends on like what your vibe is, because like I don't want to make people feel sexy. I want to make people feel awkward.
I want to be super weird.
Sexy. Yeah. And she was like, no, that's perfect.
Amazing.
So that was the birth of the Baphomets with Katie Coffin.
Yeah, that's right. We were just talking about
she had asked me and 2 other people. There was 4 original members, and then I feel like every time we did a show for like that first year, we added a new member, and then eventually we were like 13 people.
That's pretty great.
It was great. It was really bad for money.
Yeah,
like there's no one we could have removed. Like everyone was so good that like we just kept adding people because we wanted to be this big collective. But it taught me a lot about how to value my time now as like a self-booking king.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I did the performance circuit for essentially, I was losing money for a really long time because like all the costumes are new, all the, you know, the shoes and the wigs and the pasty supplies. And the getting to the, you know, driving a couple hours to a venue and then needing to get a new starter on your car.
Oh my God.
And like the performance part was fun, but it felt, even though I was doing it professionally, like we were technically being paid, none of us were really turning a profit.
Right.
So at that point, it was just like a really good hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
And then pandemic happened, and we all just kind of like, hey, maybe this is a good time for us to take a break, and we can all kind of do our own solo careers, which is great because we've all launched off in different directions, and we all are still so supportive of each other and cross-book each other all the time. So
I
it's
love
like
that.
what was meant to be is like we're all thriving best now. But it was a really good place to start because I don't know a lot of people who get to start in burlesque and have 12 other people's feedback for every single number you want to perform, because we would have weekly rehearsals where we'd get together for a few hours and be like, okay, for the next show, this is the theme. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my number. Here's my concept. We'd walk everyone through it. We'd like bring in our costume pieces, and we'd all give each other notes. And like the longer we were together, like the more unfiltered those notes got, which was good because I feel like a lot of people starting out don't have the feedback they need to hear.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of self-awareness. And it's like, I don't want to give anyone my notes. That's not my job. And I firmly stand by any unsolicited advice is a criticism. So, like, I don't give people my unsolicited advice. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, what did you think?
Right. That's different. Then you're like, okay.
But the amount of people in the drag and burlesque scene who are like, I don't know you, and this is the first time I've ever seen you perform. Here's how I think you should fix your wig.
You're like, okay, I didn't ask, but thank you.
Like, thank you for telling me that I look like shit.
Yeah. No, I hate that.
But it was nice to, like, have a group of people that you trusted to be like, here's my number. Does this make sense? And to have some people be like, no, it doesn't make sense. Try doing this. And then you do it and it'd be better.
No, that helps a lot.
It's very helpful.
I mean, like, one of the things, like, in Lucky 13, for example, is, like, they are so great for, like, they're an amateur burlesque competition. And, like, the way they do it, they give you so much time. They give you so many opportunities for feedback. And, like, the first time I did a Lucky 13, I had been doing burlesque for a little bit already, but they offered these like workshops where they're like, you come do your number, and then it's like Hazel Hellcat and Dixie Dia, and they are like seasoned pros.
They're both so cool.
They're so great, and I love them.
They're so cool, and they're so kind.
I know.
Like, I've had nothing but nice interactions with them.
No, they're really great, and they know their stuff, and they know like what makes a good performance, and like going through a run through with them, and they're really great, and they're very friendly and sweet and complimentary, and they'll do the thing where they're like, this was great, we love this. And then like I remember
a rose and a thorn.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's what I want. Like, and I asked for it, obviously.
A compliment
but like
sandwich.
Yeah. And then they're like, the first time I did the Lucky 13 thing where I like did the workshop with them, and they like told me all the stuff they thought was great, and then they were like, here's a note, like, you kind of look like you're just wandering around waiting for like beats to take your clothes off. And I was like, I'm
counting in my head until
like,
I can hit that moment. Yeah.
And I was like, that's really good advice. And also like to be bigger, which is something I like have always struggled with like performing and stuff, is like, I know I think it's just comes from like still feeling out like my body and my space, and like I know sometimes I want to like put my arms out all the way, but I'm like, I don't know how much space I have.
I get like T-Rex arms sometimes. I feel like when I'm lip syncing, I do a lot of pointing from like here, and I'm like, just drop your shoulders.
Exactly. I'm like, it's a hard thing to think about, and like that's the one thing I have trouble with a lot of the time is like I'm like always in my head like, be bigger, do it for the back row, like be theatrical, and like. But it's so great to have like people that you're like, thank you for that. Like,
yeah, you need people who like opinions you trust, who you know aren't afraid to like give you honest feedback.
Exactly.
Like I try to tell people when they're starting out with like burlesque and drag, I'm like, listen, do it for your friends. Okay,
yeah, right.
Get 2 or 3 friends that you trust to be a little bit mean to you, to be like.
Like, how did you feel about that? I think
a lot of people, not a lot. I mean, I've had the honor of getting to like a lot of the people that I book, even the brand new debuts, are like out there killing it.
Yeah.
But I've definitely seen some performances over the years where I'm like, I don't think you've ever done this in front of anyone, like including yourself.
Yeah.
Where it's like you might have thought out the choreography, but I'm like, you should record yourself and like see how it looks, or like get a few friends and be like, does this make sense?
Right.
Does
like
this look
that's
okay?
the hard part. And like doing a routine in front of like a full length mirror is not fun a lot of the time when you're like, oh, fun. I look like a goober.
You gotta avoid eye contact with yourself.
Yes.
That's my other big advice. If you're practicing in front of a mirror, don't make eye contact with yourself. Like just like if you're practicing your lip syncing and you have to look at your face and you're practicing your facial expressions, that's different. But if you're doing like body choreography, don't get your face.
Don't look at that.
Don't look at it.
But it's important to, like, I mean, I'm still learning about it, too. I've only been doing it for, like, maybe a year, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're still so new. But, like, didn't you just, like, win a competition?
I won Lucky 13.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's humble brag about that. Like, you're so new in the scene, but, like, you have such a strong presence and persona, and you make such amazing choices for your numbers. Like when we did Tippendales and you did like the Fern Gully song, people were like screaming in the back and being like screaming the lyrics to this song and just being like, I can't believe like you're doing that. And like the Leave Your Hat On number that you did at the Pride Promenade.
Yeah, people love that one.
Yeah, that was so good. So like you have a really good sense of like what your style is and like what people want to see. And I think that's another really hard balance. I had a really hard time with that when I first started doing drag, because I was like, here are the things that I know. And then I'd go out and perform them and be like, nobody knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting the references. And
it's
sometimes
tough.
that's fine. But if you're trying to like make an impact, sometimes you kind of have to go with like what you know people will relate to.
Right.
And you have a good balance of like esoteric and like hard-hitting pop culture moments.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like, honestly, again, to go back to you, like, so I remember you did a number for Guts, your Friends in Hell song, Guts.
Yeah.
And I
love doing that number.
It's fun.
You guys haven't asked me to do it in a while.
I know, we haven't played it in a while, honestly.
It's such a cute song.
It is a really cute song. But I've mentioned that to like other people before, like with you had like the Tool, like
my magician
chain.
scarves?
Yeah, no, it's so great.
Well, I brought it back for your cryptid show.
I know. I was like, that's such a fun trick. And like, just like little things like that, like watching other performances when people are like, oh, I want to try getting into that, or like I want to try burlesque or drag or whatever, which is like, yes, do it. But also like go to shows. Because
please go to shows.
I mean, go to shows anyway, even if you like just go to shows.
Always go to shows.
Period. End of sentence.
Support art.
But like a lot of people will be like, oh, I want to try that. It looks so fun, or it looks so liberating. And I'm like, it is for sure. Like go to shows. And also, like, just take notes or, like, make mental notes of, like, oh, why do I love this performance so much? And, like, Sherman is also,
oh, my God.
like,
they're crazy good artists.
Sherman is incredible. Every time I've seen Sherman, I'm like, no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be great, though. But, like, seeing different people where I'm like, why did I love that so much? What made that so weird and great? Or like Strumpet was another friend of mine who won Lucky 13 by like doing balloon animals and splits. And I'm like, that's the good stuff. Like, but I love trying to do like, it's like the band stuff. I like trying to put on a show and like make people like, what was that? And like for Tippendales, it was funny because that was, speaking of people not getting references, I was like, are people going to know Fern Gully? Like, I'm a millennial, but like people did know Fern Gully.
I feel like you and I have that same, we're around the same age, and I feel like a lot of people doing drag and burlesque are like 5 to 10 years younger than us a lot of the time. So it's like, you guys get this. Oh, you guys weren't. Oh, God, no.
You're like, okay, well.
You weren't even alive then.
My big thing is like, I guess if they don't get it, like, they'll still enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like, I remember being outside talking to two people who were just in the audience, and they were like, you were so great. That was so great. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you liked it. I wasn't sure like if people were going to get Fern Gully. And they were like, what
Fern
was that?
Gully?
And I'm like, you know, like the cartoon from the 90s. And they were like, oh, I don't think I've seen it. You were great, though. And I was like, okay, well, that is, I guess, proving my point of like, they didn't get it, but they still enjoyed it. So
yeah, that's every time I perform Detachable Penis. That's usually there's like if there's a room of 50 people, there's like 5 dads that are like yeah. But yeah, so I guess finally the last topic to cover is doing music, doing music and drag and burlesque. How is all that tied into like your queer journey?
That's a good question.
If you can get into as much detail as you want as far as like your coming out story, if your art had anything to do with that, if things have grown and changed as you do art and stuff, because I know a lot of people, their journeys tie in with their art a lot of the time. So
yeah, that's a good question. I was a special case in that I never really had a formal coming out. Because
No coming out ball?
Yeah. Although I guess I did have like I had a soft launch as being a bisexual.
No.
But when I was growing up, I was adamant that I was a lesbian, and I kept telling my mom that I was a lesbian, and she was like, okay. Sure. And then I went to college and got my first girlfriend, and I came home on...
Got her, picked her up the stoner.
I said, hooray, I found one. And then I came home for Thanksgiving break, and my mom was like, are you seeing anyone? And I was like, I am. And she was like, what's his name? And I was like, Ashley. So that was sort of my soft coming out. And weirdly, I've heard it's like a weird cliche that girls come out on Thanksgiving and men come out on Christmas, but I don't know how much that...
I came out to my mom in the bathtub.
You were in the bathtub?
She was in the bathtub.
You were just like, hey, Mom, by the way.
I wanted her to be as vulnerable as I was.
That's a good tactic. So, you were like, don't move.
Hey, while you're there. Just thought I'd drop that on you.
That's pretty iconic. That's an iconic coming out.
Well, I wanted it to be memorable for the both of us.
Yeah, exactly. But my family's been mostly pretty cool about it, which is nice. I have a good support system, and after that, I kind of never really had to. I don't really like say like, oh, by the way, I am a queer. I just kind of like have rainbows on everything and like date whoever, and so it's kind of just out there. But I think I actually did for that Tethers album have one of my, the people that I collaborated with, his name is Eitan Mirsky, and he's sort of like a local New York celebrity. He wrote the theme song for American Splendor. I'm just going to name drop, but he's a great...
drop those names.
He's a great fellow weirdo, and we're not like close friends or anything, but we've collaborated on music and stuff before, and I remember being like, hey, would you like to write a song with me for the album? And he was like, yes. And I didn't give him a prompt other than like, just send me, if you've got like a snippet, like a line, a melody, whatever, which is kind of how I did it with everybody. Mm-hmm. And he sent me back like a chorus about like polyamory, and he's not like but he like knows that I am, and like
he's like, listen, I get it.
And I was like, thank you. It was like really touching. I was like, oh, that's really nice. So I kind of like I took that as like an opportunity to be like, oh, I'll make a polyamory song. And like, also another thing that I'm not like super like, I am poly and queer, but like,
hello, I am polyamorous and queer.
Nice to meet you.
I mean, but sometimes the vibe's just out there.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just kind of part of who I am, and I'm not like afraid to talk about it, but I'm not like, I don't.
They finally reinvented the polyamory flag, so now we can have like cool merch with it.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know. Have you ever seen like the old polyamory flag?
No.
It's just like very aggressive and like not pleasing to
not
the eye, where
inviting.
someone's just like, who made this? And I remember maybe on Instagram a few years ago, there's like a page of people being like, we are forming a committee of polyamorous people.
Like what we want on a flag.
And we're all going to vote as to how to make this flag not look gross.
That's a good system.
And it worked. I've seen the flag. I'm like, it looks good. It looks good.
I mean, I'm happy to hear that.
I put it on a t-shirt. Yeah.
Let's work with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's. I think I've had the advantage, the privilege, I guess, of like having a good support system and like never having to really come out or face any weirdness from that. Explaining polyamory to your boomer parents is a little tricky.
I still haven't.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I just don't. That's like the one thing I'm in the like my siblings know, but
I've kind of explained it enough to the point where they sort of get it, and like, I mean, I only recently,
my brother plays D&D, so like he's got weird people in his life.
Yeah, so
you know, like me being
I get
queer
it.
and like polyamorous. My brother's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, right.
My sister is very straight, and all of her friends are very straight.
And you're just like, I'm not gonna touch that one.
My mom lives in Myrtle Beach half the year.
Okay.
You know,
my mom lives in Florida.
She's always like, I want to listen. I'm like, listen, you can, but you can't be upset about what you hear.
This is it, man.
Mom.
I mean, it's tough to like, it's tough when you feel like, okay, yeah, my family, like, they seem mostly pretty cool, even if they maybe don't understand things that in my modern life. And like
style choices.
I only recently told my mom that I do burlesque, and I don't really think she a lot of people like are confused because of that movie, the like Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, so you're like a Vegas showgirl, and I'm like, no.
Yes. Dita Von Teese and I toured together.
Right. No, like, no. I mean, that's definitely a thing, and it's beautiful. And again, like we were saying earlier, I'm like, it's just not my vibe. I'm too campy and weird. And like, I think when I told my mom, I'm like, it's like dancing. And she's like, oh, so what's the difference then? And I'm like, well, I take my clothes off. She's like, you take your clothes off?
Take your clothes off for strangers.
Okay, so I won't touch that one anymore either. Yeah. But I guess it's just sort of like I really love in my own like musical career, and also like with the band especially, I really love that we've created this like queer safe space for our shows, and like very inviting. And again, it's like one of those things where we're not like, you are welcome here. It's just kind of like everyone knows. Yeah. It's just one of those things that like everybody feels comfortable, and it's like
the vibe is immaculate.
Yeah, and I like to think so. And like the people who come to our shows get it, and the people who like, I mean, I've talked to several people who come to shows who are like, we saw the poster and it looked awesome, and I'm like, that's so great. But I love that we've created this like space for weirdos, and like and tying that with like burlesque. For obviously a lot of queer people do burlesque and drag. That's kind of it's like a fun activity for us.
They sure do. No.
And then for people to be like, I didn't know you were in a band, and then it's like for everybody to feel welcome and safe and have fun and be themselves and not feel judged or weird. I think that's really great, and I appreciate that, obviously. But but yeah, I think it's just like it's wrapped up in who I am, I guess. It's never just been like it's never been separate from anything. So I guess within like music and burlesque and drag and all that stuff, it's just like, yes, queer.
Yeah, it's always been more surface for you, so you didn't have to like discover it through your art.
I'm just like, it's in there.
Yeah, it's just there to like accentuate.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, I always thought like, I think growing up as like a young sort of confused, what am I queer? I was like, I don't get the whole rainbow thing. Like, why do people do that? And I think
why do
like
people wear rainbows?
Yeah,
to signal.
Well, see, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like, again, as a kid, I thought I didn't even know bisexuality was like an option until I was like too old. Too
old to what? To be bisexual?
My time has passed. No, I found out about bisexuality in like college. Like I thought you had to be like gay or straight, which is like not because I was like sheltered or anything. Like my parents had gay friends growing up and stuff. I just didn't know that like that was an option.
Erasure. No.
I know. And so like once I found that out, I was like, oh, I bet that's it. And then it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's the rainbow thing clicked for me, because it's like obviously like people are, why are people wearing rainbows? Like I didn't hate it or wasn't mad at it. I was just like, why would you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I do it all the time now because it is. It's like, hey. Safe over here.
Well,
fellow queer.
We're also like queers who wear a lot of black. And
yeah,
I'm like,
that
it's
too.
The whole rainbow. It's all the colors.
It's all in there.
This is rainbow.
Yeah.
Well, that happens to me whenever I do like shows with the Hometown Queeros. Everybody shows up in like their most neon, shiny like rainbow shit, and I'm just in the corner in the same black t-shirt.
Like the little goth weirdo over there.
And it's like it's not even enough effort to be goth. Like, I do like crust punk drag essentially.
That's even better,
I guess.
I mean, that's the whole. I
People have come to expect a level of sleaze.
You know that's part of
that's
part of who you are.
It is. I know.
I mean, that's what the people come to see.
Well, it's like when we did the PEM show recently, and like I had a full sequin tearaway jumpsuit, and everyone was like, "What the fuck?" It's like this big show.
So
I had to wear something shiny.
No, that was so great. I loved that show. Looked really cool. I was really bummed to miss it. It's a huge crowd. Like
they had to keep selling more tickets because they kept selling out. So they were like, yeah, the capacity is like 250, and then that sold out, and people kept calling. So they're like, I guess we'll raise it to 300.
Oh my god!
And then they're like, I guess we'll add another like 50 tickets at the door. I guess we'll. So I think it ended up being like 350 to 400 people there.
Wow,
yeah.
That's so awesome.
It was crazy.
That looks really great.
And
so
like crazy.
The Hometown Queeros thing, it's really great. I'm always like, me and Joe are like, I'm like, Buster's doing this cool show.
Coming out.
I know we should.
We can do more collaborations. I want to do like a Halloween Your Friends in Hell, spooky North Shore, something.
Into it.
Get like more puppets. Yeah.
I was really bummed Bella's Bartok didn't have their big skeleton puppet when they came. So sad.
Well, I mean, Vita, she's on her own schedule.
I was going to say, I get it. Like, everyone does a million things, so.
But yeah, I'm actually going to have Asher on here in a few episodes.
That's
Stay
fun.
tuned. So that'll be a good. He like constantly tours, so he's like,
Yeah.
I want to be on your podcast. Like, you tell me. I'm like, no, you tell me because you're constantly touring. So like, I'll make it work for you.
Yeah, no, they were great to me. They're great.
I love like matchmaking bands, like knowing bands and being like, you guys should like do a show together.
You guys should play together.
I've match made Bellas with a few bands where it's
That's
like
really
I watched
great.
them like go on tour with another band that I like introduced them to a few years ago. Or I didn't introduce them. I guess they had already reached out and like nobody responded. So the other band, I was like, have you guys heard of Bella's Bartok? Because if they ever ask you to go on tour, say yes.
You should do it.
Say yes. And they were like, oh, we actually saw this email, but we kind of ignored it. And I was like, respond to that email.
Get on that.
Respond to that email right now. And then just like watching them like on tour for like a week or two together and like all just singing and holding hands.
I
and
love
I was
that.
like,
they're so much fun.
I get it. Like a good band polycule coordinator.
Oh, for sure.
I'm like, I see this working for all of you. The modern day matchmaker.
Oh, yeah. We require your services.
It's my favorite thing to do. And then doing that and then having like all of you guys be like, we loved them. And then doing a show with them and then being like, we loved Your Friends in Hell.
I love that.
Like,
so great.
I did that. This is all about me.
I did it for you.
It's my favorite thing to do.
It's pretty great.
So is there anything you want to plug? Your music, your Instagram, your whatever you got going on? Your accordion dealer?
Yeah. I wish. You can follow me on Instagram at only Mia Culpa. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to follow my, I don't know what the word is for like my, the other me, it's Lynsey_Moon. That's where like I don't even use that account anymore because I'm just so Mia all the time. Lately.
I have like my personal account. I haven't posted on it in like a year and a half. I just use it to send memes to my siblings.
Yeah, I barely use that one anymore, but I will post there here, now and then.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
This was a really fun episode.
Me.
Of course. As I said, it's my favorite thing now to be like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast?
There's a lot of power in that question.
There is a lot of power in that. And I feel like such a weird, like, like a straight white guy being like, hey, you want to come be on my podcast?
We can talk about stuff.
Another white boy with a podcast. But no, so it's anytime someone says yes, I'm always very honored to have you on and come hang out here at Peabody TV, where I record this wonderful, wonderful podcast, and with my producer, Randall, hiding in the back behind me there. I literally could not do this without them. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Buster's Beat. Once again, I am your host, Buster Pants, North Shore local drag king. You can find me on Instagram at PantsBuster, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast, hopefully not concerns, but you can always shoot me an email with any questions, ideas for guests, things like that. thebusterpants@gmail.com. And that's all for us today. Thank you once again, Lynsey/Mia Culpa / all your other fabulous things, that Weird Al persona. And stay gay, be gay, do crime. Bye.